Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live. Welcome to day 2 of our 30-day business growth challenge. I am Michelle O'Connor, and I want to thank you for coming on today. We are going to be talking about one of the things that we sometimes neglect in our business when we're planning, but that's why we're here. So if you're new here, I am Michelle O'Connor, business growth strategist, and I've created this 30-day growth plan because I know for some entrepreneurs, sometimes finding 3 days to move away from your business and just focus on strategic planning, that can be a challenge. And I've designed this in such a way that you take one thing per day, you complete that one thing, and that builds onto the next and builds onto the next. So if you weren't here yesterday, we spoke about vision, and today we're going to be talking about goal setting, but really in a way about revisiting the goals that you had for 2025. So that's what we're going to be sharing. If you're joining, let me know where you're joining from and also the type of business that you have. And if at any point in time you have questions, please go ahead and drop them in the chat. This is for you, so you leave with something that works. I'm also going to be dropping my calendar link in the chat. So if you want to have a conversation after, feel free to schedule that call with me. So let us jump right into it. I'm going to just be sharing. All right, so we're going to be talking today about growth. So we're on day 2. If you were here yesterday, drop 1 in the chat. Let me know. All right, so we're talking about goal setting, and we're really focusing on revisiting your goals before you set new goals. Now, why is this important? And I want you to think about, before I even continue, I want you to even think about your personal life and how it is you go about your days. So say, for example, you went on vacation at a particular location last year and you're thinking about where the family is going this year. You don't just get up and choose somewhere. I'm sure there are conversations about what did we do last year? What did we think about that place that we went to? What about it did we like? What didn't we like? What about our daily activities? Were they too packed? Is there anything else you think we can add to the experience to make it more memorable? Those are conversations that we have about our day-to-day actions, and I want you to think about your business the very same way. If you are going to be thinking about 2026, we first want to think about 2025 and assess how we felt the year went before we decide on things that we're going to do. And trust me, you're going to see how it all falls into play. Because if you think about your goals, maybe there were things that you did this year where you're like, no, I could have shown up better. Or we chose to be on too many channels at once. Or our team wasn't trained. There are so many things, but I don't want you to just pick it out of a hat. I want you to do it in a very focused way. And that is why we're going to be looking back at the goals that we set. And don't worry, if you didn't set the goals, this conversation is going to help you to leave today and go and look back at, because you have it in your head if you don't have it documented. But I know as founders and CEOs, you have it written down. You know exactly what you're going after. So this conversation is just helping you today to sit and have that 30-minute conversation with your team, or 1-hour conversation, so you can have that documented, and come tomorrow, we'll build further on that. So let me just share back my screen so we can get going. All right, you're seeing my screen. Put a 1 in the chat for me if you're seeing my screen. All right, we're good to go. All right, so we're talking about revisiting your goals before you set new ones. So the objective for today is to help CEOs and founders assess their 2025 goals by comparing their actual targets. So how did you actually perform, and understand why results may vary, and prepare for stronger, more aligned goal setting in 2026. This, guys, is important because you don't want to be setting goals for setting goals' sake And then you either beat down on your team because you didn't achieve the goal, or you beat down on yourself as the founder because you didn't set the goal. But if you understand why you achieved the results you achieved, then the conversation becomes way more structured. So this is where we're going to be separating assumptions from performance. So earlier I said we're going to be talking about assessing your performance, but from an objective point, because I don't want you to just be sitting and thinking and picking things from the sky. I want it to be very centered and structured. So we're separating assumption from performance. You may have had a strong financial year, but you struggled with system or client engagement. And that is where insights lie. When you can get those insights, you're able to apply those insights to the next level before we go into let's set big goals for 2026. Is that making sense? Drop a 2 in the chat. All right, so we're going to compare our actual results against our targets. I created this table for you to just have an idea about what your performance review should look like. Now, I made these up, but every CEO, every founder should have a performance dashboard. You should have a table that is showing you your main KPIs, and we'll go into KPIs on another day. But for now, I'm using the word goal because I don't want you to feel confused or overwhelmed. So you had a goal, you had a target, you want to be monitoring what you're achieving each month and each quarter, and we're going to be looking at the variance. But just in case you weren't doing that per quarter, that is perfectly okay. If you don't have a table like this, your homework for today is to pull your numbers and have something where you're focused on a particular goal, and that is the goal that you're monitoring on a monthly or quarterly basis. So I picked some things out. So you're supposed to have a financial target. In this case, we're increasing monthly revenue. We have a target of 50,000. We've achieved 47,000. So it means that we have a variance of 2.5. We're off by 5%. And percentages help because sometimes you see numbers and you're like, that's a lot. But when you see 5%, you're like, 5%? We can make 5%, right? I had changed these numbers. So it says on target, but it should be off. My apologies on that. Customer experience, you want to be finding out what your customers are saying. And I give 2 examples. Increased number of 5-star reviews from clients. You wanted to get 100 reviews. You only got 78. So it means that you have 22 more to go before the year ends. So if you served a larger group of clients, you probably can think about what can you do within your team? What can we do to just have people go on and give us some reviews, or clients that we served in the year? That's off target. Another customer metric that you can measure, achieve 85% in customer engagement and satisfaction score. So this is surveys that you're sending out to your clients, or you're asking them when they're leaving to just give a review as to how they valid the experience with you. Operation, you want to think about your systems and your processes. You wanted to automate your client onboarding process. You wanted it to be completed in Q3. It's partially complete, probably 60%, so it's off target. Another thing is reduce customer onboarding time from 4 to 14 days. You're now at 10 days. A marketing metric that you can measure, you're increasing your engagement rate on LinkedIn. You're growing your qualified leads through social media. You got your target was 120 and you're at 95. So those are some metrics that you can think of measuring. So as we go through, I want you to think of what targets do you currently have that you probably documented, or you have it in your head. Because I know I've worked with some successful CEOs, and that's one of the things, they have it in their head. So I'm asking you now to go back to your table. You have a metric table, go back to your table and make a note of your on target, your off target, and by what percent. That's what we're doing today. But you need to do that first before you can answer the why behind it. If that's making sense, let me know in the comments, or if you have any questions on that before we move on to the next thing. So the first thing is You're going to go to your table. You want to look at how you're performing. You want to assess the results, what's on target and what's off target. Earlier we shared we're not making assessments from assumptions, we're making assessment from performance. And in order to do that, we want to be able to be looking at our actual numbers. What are our numbers saying? Right? All right, so let's continue now and go to how we're going to be assessing those numbers. Because after you have the results, after you've seen how you have performed, the next thing is let us now look at how we have been performing. All right. So reflect on your why. You can't fix what you don't understand. This is the first thing. You need to be able to look at your dashboard, see what's on target, see what's off target. Then you're going to reflect on it because you want clarity. For the goals that are on target, and I highlighted these words specifically because I don't want us to miss them. The goal was clear and measurable. So for the ones that are on target, they were clear and measurable. You could easily walk into a room and say to your salesperson or your social media person, how many leads did we get from that campaign that we ran? We need to get 120 for the year, or you work out how much you need to get per month. We need to get 30 this quarter. Where are we right now? Clear and measurable. Our clients need to take 14 days to onboard. How many days on average has it been taking? You're able to ask objective questions. You're not looking for story. So the ones that are on target, they were clear and measurable. And ensure as well that you have a system to measure any kind of target that you set. That is another thing that creates confusion. And you set these goals, you can't measure them, so you don't know if you're achieving it. It was aligned to the business vision, keeping the team focused on the right priority. When your targets are aligned to your vision, your team knows why they are doing it and what the end in mind is. When it's not aligned, you're just going around or you're going off, or it just creates confusion in the business. Accountability was assigned so progress can consistently be tracked and reported. When we say accountability was assigned, it means this goal was assigned to Michelle. So therefore, you're not going in a room and having a subjective conversation and saying, we haven't met this goal for onboarding of our clients. What do you guys think could be causing it? No, you can easily say, Michelle, you're the person who's responsible for reducing the onboarding time. Where are we with that? And why do you think we have not made target? There are regular performance reviews allowing for quick course correction. Regular performance reviews, we're going to be touching on this next week or the week after when we talk about performance reviews, because your performance review process is a part of execution and implementation. And there are different things that are included in performance review, but we don't want to jump ahead. We'll get there. Your meetings, your reports, your individual performance assessment, you name it. But you are having those on a regular basis. So we're talking about what caused you to be on target. So these are just some prompts that you can use. These are just some questions, some things that you can think of. But when you go into your room and you're talking to your team and you're wondering, we did so well, we're doing so great. Why? These are some things that might come out. I just made these up. Well, not really made them up, but after doing performance management for over 10 years, these are just some ones that jumped out at me. But you want to ask the questions. And why do you want to ask those questions? When you're looking at your targets that you have achieved, the thing is, anything that worked, you want to repeat it in the coming year. So we don't always just go, and I would say whenever we have an event or something happen, we do a post-mortem. What didn't work? What can we do differently next year? No, there are things that worked. There are things that we were great at. There are things that elevated our company. Let's talk about them because we can repeat it. Maybe the targets that you did not meet didn't have some of these things that we're talking about. So review your target. Do you have any questions? This is your time. Let me know if you have any questions. And again, if you want to have conversations with me, work with me one-on-one, you're able to schedule a time in my calendar. I am also going to be leaving my email address in the chat. So you can also send me an email if you have any questions. But I'm hoping this is making sense. We're winding down because we're only doing performance reviews today. And remember, I am dropping one activity that you do per day. And if you do this one activity in the end, I guarantee you're going to be surprised at how clear your plan is, and you can go and enjoy your holiday. So we just looked at the targets that we're on. Now let's talk about why were we off target. The goal wasn't clear. You didn't define what exactly success looked like. And that is why having a target is important. So maybe you didn't have the performance dashboard that we shared initially, but you had an idea. I want to have this event. I want to invite many people. No, we want to have 400 people registered for the event. It wasn't measurable. There was no data to track. Or maybe you didn't, as I shared before, you didn't have a system. It wasn't aligned. Maybe it didn't fit the season your business is in. It lacked ownership. So there was no system, no consistent way to review progress. So that is what I want you to think about as we go into looking at our whys. Question your numbers. And I often encourage persons to question, I would put it, not from a point of judgment, but question because you want answers to make decisions and make better decisions. I want you to think of this as I shared when I started, you're going on a vacation with your family. You go on vacation every year. You're sitting down and you're looking at where did we go last year and how did we feel about it? That's what you're doing for your business. And that is the activity for today. You are going to be creating your dashboard, founders and CEOs, if you don't have one. And you're going to be documenting what you've achieved. Let me just share back the table as we wrap up. I'm going to just share because as I said when I started, I know that one of the challenge is getting the time because you're operating in your business, getting the time or finding the time or making the time to pull away for 2 or 3 days. These lives are created to be maximum 20 minutes, 50 minutes if we can, to give you just one thing that you can leave and go and work on and then come back tomorrow and we do something else. So you want to have something that is, have your financial goal. If you didn't have a customer experience goal, that's fine because maybe you weren't measuring it. I don't want you to go and make anything up. We will reflect and talk about what happens next when we get there. We're just reflecting now on how we performed. If you had an onboarding process that maybe you wanted to buy a new system, you didn't buy it. Why? Maybe you didn't have the money. You didn't have the time. You couldn't afford the implementation. Information is what we're going to be using to make decisions. So have a table based on the metrics. If you had one, that is perfectly fine. We're going to be talking about KPIs and then reflect on why you were on target and why you were off target. And that is your activity for today. Day 2, we're wrapping up. And if you have any questions, book a call, send an email. We're here to provide you with clarity. And I hope that you find this activity interesting for your business. And maybe, just maybe, what happened with one of my clients, we didn't meet target because we weren't tracking performance. That could be it. You know the target that you have, but you weren't tracking it. So go ahead and do that activity. And I'm looking forward to having you tomorrow where we tackle another piece. Guys, you're going to have such a beautiful plan. I'm excited for you that you're going into your holidays knowing exactly what you're going to be doing for 2026. But we're just on to day 2. So come back tomorrow and have a great, great day.